Welcome to Soulful Living. We're Doctors Phillip and Jane Mountrose, your hosts, and this show provides timely keys and solutions for open-minded people like you to have a more joyful, meaningful, prosperous life. And an overview here, we have 3 decades of experience in the fields of holistic life coaching and healing. We're published authors, trainers, coaches, heads of the IAHP, International Association of Holistic Practitioners, and Awakenings Institute, our nonprofit organization, helping to devote the world to be a more loving place where everyone's gifts and nature is nurtured. Today is the show about the importance of being flexible. Are you flexible? Think about it. This is important. Hey, Jane, let's talk about being flexible.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I think that this is a topic that's more important than many people realize. It is, I think it in our day-to-day kind of activities, it's really relevant from the perspective that things a lot of times don't go the way we planned. And it's very
Right.
easy to let some little thing that goes wrong throw your whole day off when actually, I think to me, when in talking about this, just in general, it all relates to being in the flow with life because life things happen. And I think it also is really, really important in relation to our dreams and goals
Mm-hmm.
and feeling that we have a purpose in life. I think with any kind of a dream or goal, what we found is generally they don't come out exactly the way we had thought they would.
No,
Things are a little different, or it might be we come to V in the road and we end up going in a slightly different direction than we managed or than we imagined. But it's really important in those cases to be flexible and realize, you don't want to miss like the greatest opportunity that could be available to you because you're not flexible, because you're so, I guess, what is the word, focused, just like linear, like I'm
tunnel
going,
vision.
yeah, tunnel vision. You don't want to have tunnel vision. So I know, Philip, you had a lot of good insights in this one.
Yeah, I was thinking about the topic of being flexible, and I was writing my notes the way I prepare. Just a little side note of how I organize and write and create and do these. We do newsletter articles on our gettingthrough.org/holistic blog. And I do a mind map, which you may know, different circles and different points. And so I got out my paper. I was at a little outdoor sort of bench outside of a supermarket, and where I write, because that's where we're sort of limited to at this time.
Right. Not many
And so
places.
I have my little coffee, and I'm trying to get everything organized in this little space, this little impromptu makeshift space. And as I pull out my notebook to try to write my ideas down, you're sort of in this fertile place. You're ready to write, and then I realize that the piece of paper I have is actually filled with notes from previous thoughts. Which is kind of nice, but so that was a little bit of a setback. Okay, so then I go into my bag, my little, and pull out, and then there's a bunch of papers that sort of fly out of my bag, so they're flying all over. So I want to pick those up. So I'm thinking, wow, I'm writing about or trying to write about being flexible, and this is an example of being flexible. Little minor thing, but I think a lot of people viewing can relate. Little things get in our way, and we can make a big deal out of little things, and that's the point of being flexible.
Right. Right. And I think it's really interesting also if you think in terms of wanting to be in the flow with life. We're trained, and I guess programmed, you'd say, from the time we're born practically to judge things as good and bad. Like, this is good, this is bad, this is a horrible event, this is a great event. This shouldn't happen. This should happen. Why didn't this happen? Um, when actually, I think probably the most profitable, or the most, I don't mean that in terms of money, but the most probably resourceful place to be is to be just in a place of what's happening. Like, here I am and this is happening, or here I am and that's happening. I had a condition that came up really quickly a few years ago, and I ended up having to go into the hospital, which was not at all according to my plan. But I wanted to focus as I was there on things coming out better than I could have imagined. So when I was there, I was just, my focus was on, well, now I'm experiencing this thing in the hospital. Now I'm experiencing this other thing in the hospital. And it actually, it made it interesting. Like, well, look, this is happening and that's happening. And it also prevented me from going into negative imagination about the things I didn't want to have happen. I wanted to remain optimistic and just
Right.
also experience the experience. Whatever it is that's happening is the experience that we're experiencing. And a lot, you could say something is bad when it actually turns out it's one of the best things possible. Like you maybe something happens and you have to get off the freeway earlier than you were expecting on a road trip. I remember one time Philip and I got off and got some coffee or something. This was years ago. And we got back on, and shortly after that exit, there had been an accident right between the time we got off and the time we got on. And we thought, well, gee, we were fortunate we missed that because something came up that actually took us off the freeway. And those things, I think there are, you could say too, that there are nudges. We receive nudges, I think, from above sometimes that accomplish those things for us. And if we were
Right.
too focused on, no, we have to stay on the road, that might not have been a good result for us.
Right. So the idea of being flexible is the thing that, quote, gets in your way. The obstacle is actually a signal, a clue, a way to be adaptable and to get to a deeper place, actually to get where you want to go. So, I mean, if you looked at a roadmap, if you had to swerve around and go through some detours, but it would take you to your destination, well, you got to your destination. So it actually served a purpose, these so-called detours, these accidents, these obstacles, this resistance is actually serving a purpose
Mm-hmm.
for being flexible.
Right. Right. And you could say, well, gee, now we have to go on this detour. It's going to take us an extra 15 minutes. Or you could say, well, gee, this is interesting. We're going this way now. Why don't we see what there is to see here
Right.
and enjoy it, even though it was not according to plan and it's maybe going to set you back on your important schedule for a few minutes.
Right. And I think that analogy, it's a really good or metaphor. It could be for the being on the road. So if you look at your journey as the road of your life, think of traffic. There are traffic jams, there are detours, there are roadblocks, there are obstacles, there are slowdowns. That's part of the journey, right? And you have to be flexible. You can be very frustrated, very angry, very stubborn and saying and not accepting what is, or you can say this is what it is. You can be more relaxed, going with the flow, and knowing that this is a way to get to where you want to go.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think it's interesting too. I've noticed at times when I really identified like driving and like I have to get there, really fast wherever it is that I was going. And it would seem like a lot of times in those situations obstacles would appear. The traffic would there would be blocks in the traffic or different things would happen that would cause me to have to um, or provided an opportunity for me to be flexible rather than being so identified with where I was going that I couldn't just be where I was, which to me is one of the really important things is being in the moment with what's happening now. And when we're just so focused on, well, this I'm going to get there in 10 minutes, we might miss a lot.
Yeah, so you're sort of in the future in a projected way rather than being in the present to take you to the future.
Right.
There's an important distinction. You can be so goal oriented that you're not living your life in the present and enjoying what it's presenting to you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's part of being flexible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something we've talked about in the show previously is being resilient, and being flexible, you could say, is a component, an aspect of being resilient. You want to be able to deal with things so you can get back to where you are or even move forward. Because if you want to get to that higher level, you may need further flexibility and being able to maneuver in the present.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. It also is related to receptivity being, and I think the with that also the importance of discernment, of deciding again how you're going to evaluate things. And receptivity, that's one of the things we teach in our coaching program, the importance of that, both for practitioners and for clients. Because if you're working with a client who's just going to believe everything you say, that actually is not what you want. That's being too receptive.
Or being
So,
fixed on what he says.
right. Or the other end is being so fixed on their perspective that they aren't able to open to something new. What you want is something in the middle, which is discernment. So it is, I think being discerning is something to also have available in the moment. I often tell the story because it's so funny to me in terms of things not happening the way they were planned a couple years ago. And I just told this story recently, but I'll tell it again because it was so funny. Um, I was thinking I had some extra time, so I thought, well, Awakenings Institute is a nonprofit, and we can get grants. We can apply for grants. So I got a couple big books on grant writing, and the more I read about grant writing, the worse I felt because it was like I'm not sure that I want to get into this or that I even would qualify or whatever. But I was looking around, so I was looking at some nonprofits on the internet, just seeing what they were doing, and I came across one. It was probably a pretty small nonprofit, and what they were mature people who were mentoring younger people as their mission, which I thought was really beautiful. So I was reading down the page, and at the bottom it said, "We're supported by Google for Nonprofits." So I thought, that's interesting. I've never heard about Google for Nonprofits. So I went over to Google and checked it out. And as a 501c3, our organization is a 501c3, which is a public charity. And as a 501c3, we would qualify and had to go through an application process. And then they had a list of things that we would qualify to receive. And one of them was free Google ads. So I thought, oh, free Google ads, we can certainly use those. And and I so for some reason, Philip was the one who went through the application process to get the Google ads with them, and he got the Google ads. And do you want to tell that part? Because I
Yeah,
always get that kind of
yeah. When I went through the Google administrator, the Google person, which was probably from India. Anyway, so he was telling me about this is what you do, and then you have these Google ads, and yes, you qualified, and this is what you do and how you do it. And then he said, well, you get $320 of Google ads. I go, that's great, $320 of Google ads a month. And he goes, no, that's $320 of Google ads a day. And, I said that to Jane, who said the same thing. You mean a month? No, I mean a day. So it was kind of a very eye-opening thing of being, and that's, really boded our business. Well, again, this coming out of the blue, being flexible.
right. We weren't. It was one of those situations where it wasn't a grant, but I was open to other things occurring. So it is like when opportunity knocks, you want to be sure that you're available to answer the door. And and so what it is it comes out to $10,000 of Google ads every month that we now have, and we can we can share our work with people all over the world. We have all kinds of different things that are available to people, and it's just an opportunity if I hadn't been looking, and I think also there was a guidance component in my mind, that I was kind of guided by being open to looking at different things. I was guided to this place where this opportunity appeared, and I was really surprised and delighted. That's another thing I like to say. I'm going to be surprised and delighted with the results. And that was a case where I was really surprised when Philip told me. I just I couldn't quite get it in my head that that was what was happening. But it's a very generous thing that Google does for nonprofits.
Yeah, that's that's very generous, and that shows you if you follow your heart, things open up. People come to me and they want to take our coaching and healing program, which is starting soon again. Go to tinyurl.com/HOL coach, tinyurl.com/HOL coach. So people say, hey, what can I do with this? I'm interested in this. What I'm doing isn't really making it for me. There are a lot of people now in the world who are saying, hey, I'm tired. The 3D, the conventions, it's boring. It's not meaningful. It's just making a living. It's, and you have to make your rent. We understand that. And so here's what I tell them. And this has to do with being flexible. And I say this from many years of experience, and I feel confident in saying it. Hey, I can't say what's going to happen to you. I'm not one of those people like you go to these coaching programs and you're going to get $10,000 a year if you $10,000 a month if you make if you take our coaching program, etc. I don't say that. I don't know, but I do know if you follow your heart, it's going to work out. How it will work out, I have no idea, because we don't know. We have a sense of it. More experience gives you a sense of how to be flexible and direct yourself. But I can tell these people with sincerity and conviction, hey, if you follow your heart, if you're flexible, it's going to work out for you. It's going to take your next step. I can't tell you how it's going to turn out or where it's going to go. Neither can you. That's part of the excitement, the journey. But that's the journey. I would recommend that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really is amazing when you think of, we've been actually talking a lot recently, Philip and I, about the idea of having a life plan. And a lot of times I think people like us, we feel like we've been guided to these different things in our lives, and actually then realize that it probably is part of a plan. And where did that plan come from? Well, we somehow we designed this plan for our lives, and now we're acting it out. And it's also true within that plan that we design challenges and obstacles to appear, because it is through overcoming those obstacles that we grow, right? So if we resist those obstacles, what we're really doing is resisting the life that we designed for ourselves to live. And I'm not saying that there aren't ever times when things don't go according to maybe the plan, but most of the times they are going according to the plan. And if we resist the obstacles, it actually makes it more difficult to get through them. And then it also it is a lack of appreciation for the fact that these things happen by design. And I think it's hard for us sometimes in being on the physical plane to accept that there are difficult, really sometimes difficult things. I remember one of the really most difficult times for me was when my brother died. I had one brother, and I won't go into the details exactly of what happened, but the night before, well, the the night before he died, I guess I can say it that way. I was thinking, well, he can't die because I couldn't bear it. I just didn't think I had the strength to be able to handle it. And of course, then he died the next day. And I did have to bear it. There was no choice but to bear it. And there were a lot of events surrounding that, of course, as there are for all of us in our lives, that were challenging. but I came out of it and realized I was much stronger. And I also realized my brother actually was an alcoholic, that he had no reason to continue living. He had nothing that he wanted other than alcohol, and that wasn't a possibility for him anymore. He he went into liver failure. So it is appreciating the plan too. I think appreciating that we are being guided in our lives.
We talk a lot about life purpose in the Soulful Living show here with Phillip and Jane Mountrose every week, Sundays here on Facebook Live. And when you start, you're someplace in that progression. If you're listening to the show, you either are interested in your life purpose, you're living it, you're somewhere on the journey taking you, and it doesn't end. It doesn't end with your life. It goes on probably through lifetimes. Something you want to feel, something you want to share, something you want to give, something you want to express. Those are the heart, the essence of your life purpose. And as you discover that, you go deeper into it, which may mean you revise and adapt and reinvent yourself, which means being flexible. What worked a year or two ago may be really kind of outdated now. And if you're fresh and current and in the moment, you see what is suitable now. Otherwise, you're sort of living on automatic. Jane and I've seen many people who've done well with teaching courses like hypnotherapy, and they go into a kind of an automatic automaton mode where it's something that works and they just do the same thing over and over. And it becomes like another job. It becomes like something that was once very fresh and alive that just becomes something that they've done. They really have done that, and they haven't gone beyond it and kept growing and seeing what their next step is. And that's okay. I mean, there is not a judgment. You get as far as you want. We sort of look at things in life, 3D Earth terms, current Western terms, and rating ourselves, giving ourselves sort of a test score. It doesn't seem to work like that metaphysically. It's a much different measurement or evaluation, more out of time, more timeless about what the quality you want to explore and embody,
Mm-hmm.
and be flexible to achieve it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with we've been in the field now for 30 years, and things didn't always go according to our plan, the way that we wanted them to go for us. But we had to at one point confront the thoughts, well, this isn't really making as much money as we thought. So what are we going to do? And I think we both decided that it was something that we loved so much, we were going to do it no matter what. Like, we weren't going to be the ones who give up. And on the other side of it, we have people call us and do sessions with us and relate to us in different ways regarding building their practice as holistic practitioners. And I remember one time a woman called. She wasn't one of our students. She had studied some things, some spiritual practices, and she wanted to build her own private practice, which I think it's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing for us. I can't imagine anything better. And in the long term, it actually came out much better than we would have ever imagined. What she did is she spent 3 months trying to build her practice, and it didn't work out. So she said she quit. And I thought, and it is that if something is the thing that you are living to do, like that makes you feel the most alive, you don't give up on it. And there are so many stories in different professions, like actors and people who build tremendous businesses and things, who talk about how in the short term it took them so much longer than they expected, but in the long term it turned out so much better than they anticipated.
Right.
I think that's part of kind of also in our society, the desire for instant gratification, that we have to have more of a long-term vision of things, especially related to purpose, and if we're trying to build something for ourselves to live on our own terms, which is what we wanted to do. It might take longer, but it's so much worth it's so worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because once things started moving along, like I said, it's been so much better than we could have imagined. We're just really thrilled with the way that things have gone and continue to go. Life, as Philip mentioned, it really is an adventure. It's always, things are always growing and evolving, and we have to grow and evolve with them, of course. COVID is another good example. Things that, like Philip said, things that worked a couple years ago aren't even possible now. So what do? Do we bemoan our fate, or do we look for opportunities where they exist?
Right. Yeah. So being flexible is a key ingredient. Look at
And it feels
yourself.
good when you think about it. It's in your body
Yeah.
too.
Your body is flexible. Hey, there's a great Sufi saying that goes, "Blessed are the flexible; they will never bend out of shape."
That's good.
Blessed are the flexible; they will never bend out of shape. So hopefully, you won't bend out of shape if you start feeling like you're a little out of shape. Hey, that's a signal, along with listening to this show, that you are out of shape. Hey, share the show with other people so they stay in shape too.
Yeah.
Jane, anything else before we conclude?
No, that feels pretty complete to me. I think, again, I guess just one comment is the idea of being flexible. When you think about it, it actually feels good. And
Right.
having a flexible body, who wants to have tight joints? And we want to it's really, we're made to be flexible, and it's very rewarding when you start to see different opportunities that you hadn't imagined being possible for you.
So remember, this is the Soulful Living Show. Share it with your friends. We hope you enjoyed it this week. The importance of being flexible with Phillip and Jane Mountrose. Our website is gettingthrough.org/holistic, gettingthru.org/holistic. We value your support, and tuition for our courses and other purchases help our mission to create a more loving world. And if you can share this message of love with those around you, we can change the world. Hey, have a wonderful week. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye bye.